Imagine walking into a car dealership where the vehicles on display don't need fuel, don't need charging stations, and never rack up electricity bills. Sounds like science fiction, right? Well, what if I told you that this vision is no longer a dream but reality, unfolding right now in Africa? Today, Africa has officially launched the world's first free energy car dealership, and the global auto industry is absolutely stunned. Stay tuned, because what's happening on the streets of Africa could rewrite the future of mobility for the entire planet. For decades, the world has been trapped in a cycle of energy dependency. Gasoline and diesel power the 20th century. Electric vehicles promise freedom, but soon hit a wall. Charging infrastructure, expensive batteries, and reliance on national grids still tied to fossil fuels. But in Africa, a bold new chapter has just begun. Engineers and visionaries have unveiled a self-sustaining car powered by free energy technology. Vehicles that generate their own power as they move, requiring no external charging and no fossil fuels. And now, these revolutionary cars are not just prototypes hidden in labs. They're being sold in a dealership that has opened its doors to the public. This isn't just a milestone for Africa. It's a wake-up call to the world. Oil-producing giants fear the ripple effects on energy markets. EV giants like Tesla and BYD suddenly face a competitor that eliminates their biggest challenge: charging. And governments everywhere are asking, what does transportation look like when energy is no longer a commodity to be sold, but a right to be shared freely? Africa's dealership is more than a showroom. It's a symbol. It signals that innovation doesn't always come from Silicon Valley, Berlin, or Shanghai. Sometimes it rises from unexpected places, disrupting industries in ways no one saw coming. And if this technology scales globally, the consequences are staggering. Entire fuel industries could collapse. EV charging networks might become obsolete, and everyday drivers, for the first time in history, could experience true energy independence. So here's the big question. Is this the dawn of a new automotive era, led not by the traditional giants, but by Africa? Because if free energy cars become mainstream, the world's balance of power, economic, political, and environmental, may never be the same again. The world is watching Africa, and history is being written. At the heart of this free energy car is a breakthrough system many experts once dismissed as impossible. Instead of relying on lithium batteries that degrade over time or hydrogen systems that are expensive to maintain, this vehicle taps into self-sustaining energy generation mechanisms. Some engineers describe it as a blend of advanced magnetic systems, regenerative dynamics, and energy recycling technologies working in perfect harmony. The result? A car that doesn't just conserve energy. It creates it. This is not about bigger batteries. It's not about faster charging. It's about removing charging altogether. Unsurprisingly, the announcement has rattled the global auto industry. Oil lobbies are already voicing concern, warning of disruptive consequences to energy markets. EV manufacturers in China are scrambling to understand the technology before it overtakes their massive production lines. Even Tesla, long considered the leader of clean energy innovation, has yet to reveal anything that comes close to this. But beyond the panic, there's also fascination. What Africa has introduced is not just another car. It's a paradigm shift. Think about what this means for ordinary people. No more paying for fuel. No more waiting at charging stations. And no more being tethered to unpredictable electricity grids. For developing nations, especially across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, this could be revolutionary. Transportation has always been expensive, not because of the cars themselves, but because of the lifelong costs of fueling them. Now, imagine families being able to own cars that run freely, communities moving without limits, and economies thriving without being chained to fossil fuel imports. Of course, with every revolution comes resistance. Some analysts are already asking, will this technology be allowed to scale globally, or will it face oppression? How will powerful oil-producing nations react when their trillion-dollar industries are threatened? And could free energy cars actually destabilize global markets before they save them? Behind this revolutionary dealership lies a story of determination, risk, and defiance. For years, African inventors and engineers were dismissed on the global stage, their innovations overlooked or branded as unrealistic. But while the world focused on Silicon Valley and China, quiet laboratories across Africa were experimenting with technologies that the mainstream industry had ignored. One of the pioneers at the center of this movement spent years refining a prototype that defied conventional physics models. Early on, critics laughed. Investors pulled out, and many claimed the concept of a self-charging vehicle was nothing but a fantasy. But after countless trials, what began as a small prototype has now evolved into a fully road-ready car, mass-produced and available for the first time in a dealership. Stepping into Africa's first free energy car dealership feels less like visiting a car showroom and more like walking into the future. Rows of sleek, futuristic vehicles stand ready, but there are no charging ports, no fuel pumps, no signs of traditional infrastructure. Sales representatives don't talk about miles per gallon or charging times. Instead, they highlight concepts like energy independence, infinite driving range, and zero operational cost. For customers, the experience is electrifying, because for the first time, cars are being sold as a product that requires constant spending, but as a once-in-a-lifetime investment in freedom. The inventor behind this project has spoken openly about his mission: to liberate Africa and eventually the world from the grip of energy dependency. He envisions entire cities where public transport, delivery vehicles, and private cars all run freely without draining national resources. His belief is simple yet radical. Transportation should never be a burden. It should be a right. But as word spreads, pressure is mounting. Oil corporations are already lobbying against the technology. Some governments are quietly watching, torn between embracing the innovation or fearing the collapse of their energy revenues. And powerful automakers are rumored to be seeking ways to either buy into the technology or suppress it. What's unfolding in Africa is more than a local achievement. It's the opening act of a global showdown between old industries fighting to survive and new ideas pushing humanity forward. Whispers are already circulating in global media circles. Some claim that powerful oil magnates are quietly funding investigations to discredit the technology. Others suggest that international regulators are preparing barriers, policies, trade restrictions, and safety certifications that could slow down or even block the export of free energy cars. Behind closed doors, automakers in Europe and Asia are holding emergency meetings. They see the writing on the wall. If Africa's dealership model spreads, their multi-billion-dollar investments in EV charging networks could collapse overnight. And with each passing week, the legend of Africa's free energy cars spreads further, igniting debates in parliaments, boardrooms, and households across the globe. But as the movement grows, so too does the resistance. International oil cartels are intensifying their campaigns, funding studies to discredit the technology and pushing for restrictive trade policies. Energy corporations warn of unforeseen consequences, while quietly lobbying for bans. Yet the dealerships keep multiplying, the people keep buying, and the world's old energy order watches helplessly as the foundations beneath it begin to crack. It doesn't take long before the great powers make their move. Diplomatic cables leak, revealing urgent discussions in Washington, Beijing, Brussels, and Moscow. Each superpower sees Africa's free energy revolution as both an opportunity and a threat. Some nations offer partnerships, promising infrastructure investment in exchange for exclusive rights to distribute the cars. Others threaten sanctions, insisting the vehicles must meet international safety and compliance standards before entering their markets. Behind the polite language, the message is clear: control the technology or risk global disruption. But Africa is no longer bowing to external pressure. Leaders across the continent are rallying around the dealerships as a symbol of sovereignty. For too long, one African president declares in a speech, "We have fueled the engines of the world while our own people struggled. Now, for the first time, we hold the keys to the future, and we will not hand them over." Crowds erupt in applause. The dealership movement is no longer just about cars. It's about identity, freedom, and dignity. Meanwhile, the public response outside Africa is exploding. Protests break out in cities across Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Demonstrators chant for their governments to allow imports of free energy cars, accusing politicians of protecting oil and auto companies at the expense of ordinary people. Social media fuels the fire. Videos of African drivers cruising for days without refueling go viral, amassing millions of views. Hashtags like hashtag energy freedom and hashtag let them in trend globally. For the first time in decades, transportation has become a rallying cry of social justice. The global economy begins to wobble. Oil demand shows its sharpest dip in decades. Energy stocks plunge, while companies tied to the free energy car dealership skyrocket in value. Economists warn of a potential energy collapse, but consumers, finally seeing hope for affordable mobility, celebrate. Every day the dealership opens its doors, the old energy empire loses another brick in its foundation. The first signs of resistance don't come from official governments, but from the shadows. Strange incidents begin to plague the dealerships. Unexplained power outages, mysterious fires, sudden shipment delays. In one shocking event, a fleet of free energy cars bound for export is mysteriously lost at sea, fueling suspicions of sabotage. Journalists who dig too deeply into these events report receiving threats. Some suddenly withdraw from their investigations. Whispers grow louder. Powerful interests are using covert operations to halt the rise of Africa's free energy revolution. At the center of it all, the inventor finds himself caught between admiration and danger. Once celebrated for his genius, he now lives under constant surveillance. Rumors swirl that foreign intelligence agencies have placed him on watch lists, and some claim attempts have already been made to lure him away with offers of billions. But he refuses. In a rare interview, he declares, "This technology belongs to the people. If I sell it to the powerful, it will disappear. And if it disappears, humanity loses." His defiance only increases the stakes. To his supporters, he is a hero. To his enemies, he is a threat that must be neutralized. Meanwhile, governments grow more aggressive. A coalition of oil-rich nations files a case at the World Trade Organization, arguing that free energy cars are a destabilizing technology that must be restricted. Other nations counter by openly praising Africa's leadership, demanding that free energy vehicles be recognized as the future of sustainable transport. The world is dividing into two camps, those who embrace the revolution and those determined to stop it. But for every act of sabotage, for every threat or restriction, the dealerships grow stronger. New openings are announced in record time. Communities rally to protect shipments, forming human chains around convoys. Tech enthusiasts worldwide volunteer to document, test, and replicate the technology, making suppression nearly impossible. The harder the resistance pushes, the stronger the movement becomes. And with each passing day, the old order feels its grip slipping further away. As the battle lines hardened, the world braced for conflict. On one side stood the guardians of the old order, oil magnates, energy corporations, and governments terrified of losing control. On the other side, a growing movement of people demanding freedom from fuel, freedom from charging stations, freedom from dependence. The turning point came when Africa announced its boldest step yet, an alliance of nations forming the Free Energy Union. Their mission was clear: protect the technology, expand it across the continent, and share it with partners who believed in a future beyond oil. Almost overnight, new factories emerged, funded not by foreign powers, but by African investors and innovators determined to keep ownership of their destiny. The first International Free Energy Car Expo drew millions, with delegations from Asia, South America, and even parts of Europe arriving to sign historic agreements. Attempts at sabotage could no longer keep pace. Every attack only drew more attention. Every restriction only fueled more demand. By the time sanctions were threatened, it was too late. The cars were already spreading too fast, too far, too wide. Oil prices crashed to levels unseen in generations. Energy markets collapsed under the weight of their own obsolescence. For the first time in a century, the world economy shifted not because of war or crisis, but because of liberation. And at the center of it all, the inventor refused the lure of billions. Instead, he gifted the core technology to humanity, releasing it through open-source channels so it could never be monopolized, never be buried, never be erased. He became a global icon, not a billionaire tycoon, but a liberator, remembered alongside the greatest innovators in history. His vision had come true: transportation as a right, not a privilege. Years later, The free energy car dealership that started it all is preserved as a museum, a reminder of the day Africa changed the course of history. Children visit on school trips. Families take photos beside the first prototype, and tourists from around the globe stand in awe at the birthplace of a revolution. The world had entered a new era. Cities hummed with silent vehicles gliding endlessly, untethered from pumps or plugs. Families traveled freely without fear of cost. And nations once divided by energy wars now work together to share technology that belonged to everyone. Africa had not only shocked the world, it had reshaped it. And so, what began as a single dealership became the spark of a revolution that ended an empire, liberated billions, and proved to the world that sometimes the future doesn't come from where you expect it, but from where hope burns brightest.